All right, so before we break for lunch, we'll have a panel. I will let each of them introduce. So we'll have a panel covering engaging the Kubeflow community, building an enterprise-ready AI and ML platform. So let's welcome them. Go ahead.
Thank you. I hope you're not too hungry and you're still curious about Kubeflow. We'll talk about Kubeflow and what it means to build an enterprise-ready AI/ML or MLOps platform, if you ask me. And I'm not alone, as you can see. It's a few of us from different companies with different backgrounds. So maybe let's get to know each other better. Andrey, do you want to start?
Hey everyone, happy to see all of you here in London. I hope everyone enjoying the sunny weather. So my name is Andrey. I'm a Kubeflow steering committee. Been in this committee for the last almost 7 years. Also work at Apple. Been involved in multiple projects during my lifetime in Kubeflow, building a training operator, KT projects. Right now, trying to see how we can organize the AI and ML platform Kubernetes, and try to see how we can get easier for folks to use Kubernetes for ML and AI workloads and LMOps part of things.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ronen. Happy to be here. I guess I represent one of the users. We're big users of several components of Kubeflow. I was the CTO and co-founder of RunAI. RunAI is what we call AI infrastructure orchestration platform. We help customers operate their AI clusters, run AI workloads in the most efficient and simple way. We got acquired by NVIDIA last year, so now I'm part of NVIDIA. Really excited to be here in KubeCon. I love KubeCon. I try not to miss any KubeCon event. So really excited to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yuan. I'm a senior principal software engineer at Red Hat, and I'm on the Kubeflow steering committee together with Johnu and Andrey, and also one of the leads for the Argo project and Kubernetes working group serving.
Hi, everyone. I'm Johnu, technical director at Nutanix, leading the enterprise AI product on open source, leading a couple of efforts in Kubeflow, also leading ML common storage, which is something like looking at the storage impact for ML workloads.
And I'm Andrea. I represent Canonical, the publisher of Ubuntu. I am the product manager for our AI portfolio. And we talked a lot about Kubeflow. We have users, we have distributions, we have community members. But what is Kubeflow, Johnu? Why don't you help us?
Who all know about Kubeflow? Is it something new for people? Someone has tried in their dev production? OK, I can see some hands.
That's amazing.
So I'll just give a very brief intro, high-level overview. And we have one talk on Thursday, if you want to know more about it. But from a very high level, Kubeflow is an ecosystem of multiple AI projects which can run natively on Kubernetes, solving different ML phases in your journey. So if you see that entire stack, you have the bottommost layer, you have the hardware accelerators, then your Kubernetes layer. Then comes a thin layer, which is your Kubeflow layer, which is running natively on Kubernetes, any Kubernetes. So you can run Kubeflow on your laptop, on-prem, hybrid, or even on cloud, right? And the topmost layer is your favorite tools that you interact with, be it Jupyter, or your frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, etc. So you could, based on your use cases, you can deploy these components as a standalone component. So if you're interested in just training, deploy just the trainer, and that's good enough. Or if you want to have your end-to-end solution, you can deploy all these components together as a Kubeflow platform, which will give you a multi-tenant overview of all these components. So from your Kubeflow perspective, you start your experimentation with Kubeflow notebooks. Once after your basic experimentation is done, you're happy with it, you can do a distributed training using Kubeflow Trainer. You can fine-tune models using Knative. You can register these models, version these models using the model registry, data processing using Spark operator, and finally, your model put into production, your deployment using KServe. So, and all these things can be stitched together using Kubeflow pipelines, which is kind of like a workflow manager. And these are various components that you get together in your Kubeflow installation.
I think if I oversimplify it, what Kubeflow is an end-to-end MLOps platform that covers the entire ML lifecycle. Now, of course, if you look at some of our users, and Ronen will talk more about it, they only use some components, but then some others. And I think all of us also use the entire distribution. But maybe let's talk a bit about the experience that we have with Kubeflow. How is it for you? And you are from the early days, Andrey, no?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so as I said, I've been involved in this project since 2018. So I think a few things, right? So we try to adopt individual components of Kubeflow. So we're really excited about this new initiative called Kubeflow Trainer, which is the next iteration of training operator, which allows you to seamlessly fine-tune training models using different distributed techniques like MPI or any frameworks that you can use. And the beauty of this, as Johnu mentioned, because Kubeflow is a composable platform, you can basically take components that you need to integrate in your existing platforms, which means it doesn't require for you to install the full bundle. You can just take what you need. For example, if you need a serving component, you can go to KServe. If you need a training component, you can install the Kubeflow trainer. So that gives companies and organizations an opportunity to be involved in the project and extend it with their requirements. Also, we try to follow Kubernetes best practices and allow us to be as much extensible as we can. So you can plug in your own in-house frameworks or technologies and adopt them internally. So this is I think the huge opportunity for organizations to be involved in these projects and actually get benefits from the community. And this project has been involved for a while because one of the reasons we adopted because it's very mature. It's been there for quite some time, since 2017, and many organizations using this to train foundational models. So we see the value and we benefit a lot from it.
Ronen, do you want to go next? I know you use the MPI operator, if I'm not wrong.
Right, we use also the MPI operators, also the training operator, and more components. But you spoke about, Andrey, that in 2017 you started Kubeflow. I remember that time. We started RunAI in early 2018, and I remember the time where Kubeflow launched. And it was a lot of people were excited about that, right? It was a big project. And it started as a one platform, right? Or one solution. And along the way, it got splitted into different components, which I think was a brilliant move, right? Because different people need different tools, different solutions, right? So not having just all one solution, that was a great move. And so we started at the same time, and it was great. And you guys saw very similar problems that we saw. But I think at RunAI, we took a different approach, or we focused on different problems. At first, we focused on problems around closer to the GPU, right? Closer to making the usage of GPUs more efficient, simpler in Kubernetes. In those days, Kubernetes, there were a lot of gaps in terms of scheduling. When it comes to AI workloads on GPUs, Kubernetes was built to run traditional applications, web applications on commodity CPUs. And AI workloads just require something else. They are much more compute intensive, running on accelerators like GPUs. So back then, there were a lot of gaps in terms of scheduling, and we were focusing about scheduling and about GPU fractioning and things like that. So we started from there, but as we continued, we got requests from customers around a lot of the things that Kubeflow is solving. Right? I think one of the first things that we saw is people using Kubeflow notebooks, just spinning up notebooks on Kubernetes clusters. And when they bought RunAI, they wanted to continue and use notebooks. So we've integrated with Kubeflow notebooks. So that's something that we still have. Along the way, people wanted more seamless experience in the RunAI platform. So we created our own notebook experience. Next thing I think was distributed workloads, as Andrea said, right? Distributed workloads. I remember the time where 2018 Horvath came out, and Horvath was the best solution for spinning up distributed workload on Kubernetes or in general. But then the ecosystem evolved and so on. And I think like the operators give amazing solution for anyone who wants to just spin up distributed workloads on Kubernetes. We are packaging both the training operator and the MPI operator with the RunAI platform, and we ship it to our customers. And that's the way that we run distributed workloads on RunAI. The last thing that I want to mention here is Kubeflow pipelines. We see a lot of users, a lot of customers running pipelines with Kubeflow. We have an integration with Kubeflow pipelines, and so like that's our for us that's the go-to solution when people ask us about how to run data pipelines, ML pipelines on Kubernetes clusters. So we refer them to Kubeflow.
I'm very tempted to ask about the gaps from the platform, but I'll refrain myself for now. Yuan, how was your experience? I know you, again, started from the early days, but you initially focused on the training operator. What was the problem that it solved that drove you towards that?
Yeah. Let me share a little bit like from vendor perspective. So Red Hat AI is kind of in a unique position as a hybrid cloud AI platform. And so we get to work with a lot of different software and hardware vendors, cloud providers, to make sure that our users can deploy AI applications anywhere. And building on top of Kubeflow gives us a really solid vendor-neutral foundation for us to innovate with the community, work with our collaborators and partners, and also like experiment new features with the community so we can get quicker feedback. And we also love the Kubeflow's extensibility and composability. So we started using different individual Kubeflow components from upstream. And we put together like a reference implementation called Open Data Hub. As we onboard more and more users and enterprise customers, we receive a lot of different feedback and feature requests and bug reports. So we just started contributing back to those individual components and start getting involved in a lot of community leadership activities, including like coordinating releases with the project leads and working group leads, and also be part of the Kubeflow steering committee. And we also donated the model registry project to help our users manage and model version and artifacts and the metadata throughout their machine learning lifecycle. Yeah.
Johnu, what about you? You both contributed and used Kubeflow for a very long time. Does it mean that whenever you found a challenge, you went back to the repositories and you solved it because that's the beauty of open source?
Right. It's amazing to see how community has grown from, like in 2017, 2-3 companies to this level where we have thousands of contributors and big industry backing that. I think it is primarily, like if you think about it, it's primarily the true community spirit and the open governance that we brought to the Kubeflow ecosystem. So we have, there is one Kubeflow summit which is happening in parallel. So we actually want all the devs to come together, share ideas, share their experience, and then get the community along. And also, we really want to get the feedback from community, what is going wrong, and rectify in the next phase and make it better for them so that it brings such a big benefit to the ecosystem. And in the open governance side, we wanted, and this was like one of the very initial thought as well, we wanted no company should control the Kubeflow ecosystem. And we wanted to be as open as possible. So whether it is some decision which is happening in the steering committee or in community, we always record that in the Google Doc and then share it across, right? So that like it is all transparent. And we want to measure the activity of the community with the same yardstick, whether the user is from a big company or an individual who's contributing. There are fixed set of guidelines for being a reviewer, being an approver, and they get promoted. Once those are satisfied, you get promoted in the respective projects that they are working on. So that way, we try to create that open environment for people to come and contribute and also learn together. I think that's one of the key success that I see from the community side.
That's very interesting. You ended this with the idea of learning together, because I think that's the beauty of open source, that you learn along the way. And on one hand, you learn about the topic, the project that you're part of, in this case Kubeflow, but also you learn about other cultures, other people, how to engage in distributed teams, for example. And as an official distribution of Kubeflow, Charm Kubeflow Canonical's distribution comes also with, or came to me as a product manager with a lot of questions around enterprise-grade features, whether we talk about air-gap deployment or the portability on different Kubernetes distributions or security questions. We had to address them, but then also we had always to keep in mind how do we take them back to the community such that we all benefit from it. And one of the cool features is that we implemented, for example, is the profile automator that two of my colleagues will talk about. But also when it comes to using or joining the Kubeflow community, initially I found it challenging, right? Like back then we were not yet part of CNCF. And it was difficult to understand, how do I get started? How do I provide feedback? Who do I engage with? And I think that's one angle that improved tremendously. And nowadays we have more and more people providing us feedback because they find it easier both to engage with us, but also to use Kubeflow itself. We have different deployment methods. We support different silicon vendors. You can deploy it on different clouds as well, which it's a great achievement for the community itself.
May I ask at one point? Yeah, I think it's very important, like, for us to understand the community perspective, because I just want to say about we collaborate very closely with Kubernetes ecosystem, because I think like all of us should work together to consolidate efforts around AI and ML on cloud native technologies, and we work really hard with batch working group, for example, and server working group to see how we can all work together and share our knowledge, using Kubernetes for machine learning workloads and benefit from these consolidations. One of the examples, for example, we in the last year worked very closely with batch working group to consolidate effort around distributed training on Kubernetes. So I really hope all of us as a community can work together so we can provide a unified infrastructure for customers and users who see the power of Kubernetes for ML and AI workloads right now.
I have now a question that can be controversial, but everyone talks about GenAI and LLMs. Is Kubeflow helping with that?
Let me start. So yeah, I think it's a good question. So we've been there for quite some time. I think we started this, Google started this project in 2017. They open sourced it as part of training operator, and also they kind of initiated idea of running notebooks on Kubernetes. So historically, we've been addressing the traditional ML use cases, and Kubeflow plays very well there because all this operator pattern, how we see the life cycle of machine learning and how we can address different stages, it works very well. But right now, in the world of large language models and how we all transition to GenAI, we see the trends where we should go towards to. And as I mentioned yesterday, as I mentioned before, we work very hard in terms of enabling GenAI features inside the Kubeflow ecosystem. One of the examples, we started this new initiative called Kubeflow SDK, which is basically allow data scientists and machine learning engineers to quickly utilize all of these projects and using the native Python framework to run it on top of Kubernetes. So they can quickly fine-tune their models, they can quickly serve them, they can quickly automate hyperparameters for LLMs. And we even enable one-click fine-tuning, which is quite a really exciting project we're working on, which actually using the other libraries like TorchTune and from the Torch ecosystem. So we can also benefit from those frameworks and allow customers to quickly use Kubernetes for LLM workloads. Additionally, which is also very exciting, because right now data become much larger and models become much larger, we need to find a way how we can automate the data processing tools. So I have a talk actually in 2 p.m. right now at Kubeflow Summit to show how we bring Arrow technologies and cache on top of Kubernetes, so we can streamline distributed training on top of Kubernetes. So this is very applicable for large language models because it allows us to quickly get data from Iceberg and then using data fusion to have some sort of distributed cache. So if you're interested, I strongly suggest you to join the talk and actually learn more about it. And this will be another project exciting going on. Other parts that I want to mention about GenAI, it's new working group that we started called ML Experience. And again, we try to see how we can make Kubernetes, how we can democratize Kubernetes for machine learning engineers and data scientists. So all of them who know like all of these technologies, like who know LangGraph and LangChain, and who want to use, like who want to kind of benefit from the power of Kubernetes to scale their workloads, they can quickly they can use the same environments to scale their work on top of Kubernetes without even knowing they're running on Kubernetes. So we're working very closely with the community to initiate this new working group and see how we can make it easier for folks to use Kubernetes for GenAI.
Thank you, Andrey. I think you went into my next question on what's coming next. So I'll start with Ronen. What would you like to see next in Kubeflow? What's missing?
Okay. Okay, several things, I think. Yeah, I like to be demanding usually. I'm kidding.
That's that's the only way for us to evolve, I guess.
A few things, maybe a couple of things. And I'm sorry, I'll do a little bit of promotions to open source projects that that's going to be out there. One thing is that today we announced an open source. We're open sourcing, I think, one of the most important core technologies in RunAI. We open source the scheduler, the RunAI scheduler. Woohoo! Yeah, that's big for us. That's big for us. NVIDIA is really committed to open source. NVIDIA is really committed for the cloud-native ecosystem to Kubernetes. There is a booth here for NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is going to just devote more resources, more efforts to the cloud-native community. Yeah, definitely. That's amazing by NVIDIA. So the scheduler is out there. We call it KAI scheduler, Kai scheduler, if you like. It's out there. It's all the scheduling capabilities that we have in RunAI are now out there. We're committed to this project. We're going to continue and develop it in the open. It's going to continue to be packaged in the RunAI platform, right? We're not going to fork anything or diverge from the upstream. That's going to be still the heart of the RunAI commercial platform. And we want to see contributions, right? We want to see feedback. We encourage feedback and contributions. We would love to see that as well. And we in terms of Kubeflow, we will have an integration to different components in the Kubeflow ecosystem. So we are working on that, and I hope that it will come out soon. Roman is here. He's working on that. Yes, amazing job by Roman and the team at all. That's about the scheduler. I think going back to GenAI, right, inference, I think let's see more inference components here. So we have KServe, but let's see more. I think there are huge problems right now in inference. It's inference and running AI applications totally different than traditional applications. New requirements. And so I would love to see more here. I know that there is a lot of work going on in the cloud-native community around inference. There are different working groups and so on. Also, NVIDIA is working on that. Also, we have some open source tools out there. The cold start problem, I think, is one of the biggest problems. Like, right, we got used to the fact that like website applications, right, traditional application, you spin up and down when traffic changes, right? When traffic goes up, you spin up replicas. When traffic goes down, you spin them down. But with AI on GPUs, that's much more difficult. Spinning up a new replica can take like more than 10 minutes, right? Spinning up a GPU, I think you don't do that, right? Like you don't spin up a new GPU. Spinning up AI servers is like also a big problem. Anyways, we have a tool we call RunAI Model Streamer that helps with just streaming the model weights into servers much faster. It's open source, it's out there. We have a talk in Friday about it. So inference, I think it's like a big use case, so I would love to see more components there.
I'm almost curious if by the next KubeCon we have more components such the one that you mentioned, Ronen. But I'm curious also on Yuan's thoughts. What would you like to see next, or what are we?
Yeah, so So from KServe's perspective, there are a lot of exciting features for GenAI use cases. For example, the Envoy AI gateway integration and multi-node inference with VLM. And there's also model caching feature through like PVC and PV. And there's also like gateway API integration for raw deployment mode that could help support both Istio and Envoy gateway. So we are looking forward to working like with the community and ecosystem partners more closely. So we will continue working with the VLM community to improve the existing VLM serving runtime and collaborating with the Kubernetes working group serving on like integration with the gateway API inference extension. So lots of exciting things going on.
Johnu, there is nothing to add from your side. I'm surprised.
I think, yeah, you covered everything. I just want to see a bigger community getting bigger and bigger. So you talked about more components coming to Kubeflow. So we recently created a proposal for what are the guidelines for a new project to come into Kubeflow, because we see more and more projects showing interest to come into the Kubeflow ecosystem. So that's a proposal, you can read about it. And we want to ensure that it is a win-win situation for both the project and the Kubeflow ecosystem. And regarding the health of the project, and be it the committers, be it maintainers, be it the benefits coming to the ecosystem. And yeah, you would have seen the Spark operator and the model trees. These are new components which are there in the Kubeflow ecosystem. And they are doing great. They have already integrated with the trainer and the serving components right now. And they had the initial releases as well. And the feast is currently in consideration right now. And hopefully that will get in very soon. And from the project perspective, we are currently an incubating project in CNCF. And we see great response from the community, seeing that how open we are and how we will be in the future. So we try to get all the graduation checklist items and complete it this year to become a graduated project. Let's hope so. And that's it from the community. We actually want to see it growing. And we are always welcome to hear your thoughts and feedback about it.
May I ask one thing? Yeah, so I just want to add one small thing. I think, in GenAI right now, all of we live, I think one thing we really need to understand that how to bring ML and cloud communities closer. And one other thing that we're really exciting to work on is LLM blueprints. So I mentioned before one-click fine-tuning and this kind of ability, how it allows us to actually build the blueprints for folks who want to use Kubernetes for, GenAI workloads. It allows us to, bring those folks from ML ecosystem to the cloud ecosystem. So they can quickly prototype, experiment, train, serve all of those models on top of Kubernetes. And at the same time, we give them those infrastructure. So I think if you're interested, please reach out to us. We try to work closely with ML ecosystem. And I think Yuan mentioned about VLM. We also work with Llama Stack. I think also it's important to mention to see how all these components that Kubeflow built throughout the years can integrate with existing tools that everyone knows for GenAI. So I think this is a very important piece also to mention.
It's very interesting what I heard, because when I joined the Kubeflow community around 4 years ago, there were some components. But what I'm seeing now is an ecosystem that's growing around Kubeflow with different tools being integrated or with the project. Feast is one example. Spark is another example that we had before. And there are more coming up, which is exciting. And I think that's what the industry needs from an enterprise perspective. People use Kubeflow for sure, and they use it as an MLOps platform, but they usually need to plug in different databases or different tools that maybe cover capabilities that Kubeflow doesn't have yet, at least. Now we are getting close to an end, so I've got instructed that there is a mic somewhere in the middle where we can take additional questions, and I already see a raised hand. If you can stand up, I think, yes, there we go, yes.
Hello, this is Adib from Workday. So we had a good experience implementing Kubeflow for MLOps team. I'm from MLOps team actually managing with my principal engineer here. So we are happy with Kubeflow. And the question I have, do you have lots of competitors like SageMaker? Every time we have something on Kubeflow, they come with a discount and say, hey, let's use our SageMaker, which is like they already have 5 versions of it, which Kubeflow help us to get best practices from not just SageMaker, also from Databricks, right? I was wondering if there is like an appetite to host Kubeflow, on like any of these public clouds as a managed service with enterprise support, like public enterprise.
I can start by taking the question. You identified one interesting challenge that I think Kubeflow has, which is the ease of deployment, which we are working on as a community. But at the same time, I'll talk about Canonical as one of the distributions. We are available on the public clouds, providing enterprise support exactly to support organizations who already have their infrastructure on one of the clouds and would need an open source MLOps platform to run on top of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can add. I think it's a great question. I think the question how we can work with those folks from Google, from Amazon, from AWS, from Azure to work together. One of the things we try to work on is to establish conformance program, because right now it's kind of tricky to say how we can be Kubeflow distribution, and we kind of work with the community to see how we can establish this similar to Kubernetes. So when distributions can call themselves Kubeflow conformant. So this is the one thing maybe allows us to work closely with other vendors and provide some sort of official distribution, and so they can serve their customer needs. So this is I think one thing to also to mention.
Yeah, just want to add that. So from a Kubeflow perspective, we are an open source community, right? So we don't want an opinionated way of installation. We just want to provide a reference architecture for someone to start looking at it. And as you know, there is no single way of installing any ML tool. People have different components. They talk to each other. So it's not possible to actually bring a common platform which can suit everyone. So we just want to be that infra layer which can help people integrate into our ecosystem. And then the top layer can be implemented by any player who is interested in the Kubeflow side.
Thank you, and actually that's a benefit. You're not generalizing. Yeah, thanks.
I see we have another question.
Yes, we have been working with KFP something like 2 years, maybe more, and executed in very big clusters. But recently, and I completely understand that KFP it's the batch processing. But recently we have started to get requirements to provide functionality like micro batch in Spark, that some of the data can go over the steps before finishing completely on the first step. So my question is if something in KFP can help to provide this functionality, or you thought about it? Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer this one. So since KFP is based on it supports the Argo workflows, workflow engine, so you can run your custom Kubernetes resource as a single step. So in your case, I think you can probably run like a Spark job together with the Spark operator, and having that as part of your workflow as a single step. Does that help?
Actually, I talked about Ray, but okay.
Yeah, just on this, I think Kubeflow pipelines by its nature are very extensible. So basically, you can plug in any components that you like, whether it's be Ray, Spark, Dusk, like any operator run on top of Kubernetes, you can plug in it with KFP. So Kubeflow pipelines has a specific inputs and outputs. You can build your own, like end-to-end ML pipeline, and it allows you to integrate literally everything. This is why Kubeflow pipelines become very popular in terms of their extensibility, which we also try to reuse in other parts of the project as well.
Thank you.
There's another question coming up, and I think we have time for this one and maybe another one.
So Kubeflow in general is fairly unique in terms of the scope, the breadth of its scope. And I'm curious to hear from you guys, what are the challenges of that and how do you offset them?
So I think as we described, And the primary problem is, I think ML itself is so composable, right? Like it is not easy to bring all these components together. So we had multiple iterations of the platform before. In certain cases, people actually want to have one or more things together. In a few cases, they actually want to have the entire platform together, or maybe a standalone. So we don't have, in a way it is good, because people can bring in all components together and stitch in whatever way they want. In certain cases, they actually want to not worry about anything, but again, just get it working, right? And Kubeflow in general has a problem there, because it's actually like too many components. So how effectively can you bring all these components together to solve a use case? So I think that's the challenge that we see in general to get started. Once you have the basic understanding, then it becomes easy to get in all things together. And we are trying our best to get that first phase as easy as possible, and we are trying to see if we can bring a hosted AI playground for someone to try it out to see how things can be stitched together, and that's a work in progress with CNCF.
Yeah, I think just on this, I think John, it's a good point about AI playground. So we try to work. So one of the challenge actually how to work with the folks who start with their ML journey. So especially right now, it's very easy to fine-tune your models. Like it's extremely easy, with transformers and how all this ecosystem evolves. Right now, it's very easy to be data science. No, it's not easy, but it's possible. Like it's much kind of you don't require a lot of onboarding to start to do some sort of ML development. Given like what we see, like 7 years ago and later, like how we transition from TensorFlow to Keras to PyTorch to Hugging Face right now. So all this transition makes it easier for ML engineers to data scientists to prototype. So I think that one of the challenges we face with is how to explain what is actually ML lifecycle. Like what are the stages in your pipeline that you need to do if you want to do post-training, if you want to do inference, how to stitch these pieces together, how to build agents. So one of the things we're working on is to provide some sort of guidance from our experience working with data scientists and ML engineers, like what are the components you require for your end-to-end machine learning platform, and how those organizations can actually take something from Kubeflow, something internal, so how they can build those experience for data scientists and ML engineers so they can build those models and do a lot of GenAI experimentation.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question before they kick us out for lunch.
All right. So I want to know about the components of Kubeflow, or which ones are, let's say, the most popular one, and which one is driving adaptation. And if you want to guide contributors, what do you think is missing so that the contributors should focus on and help in developing?
I think when it comes to the most famous component, it really depends on the use case. Ronen would say that the operators are the best, whereas some of our customers say that it's Kubeflow pipelines who are the heart of Kubeflow. It genuinely depends on the users and on their needs, as well as on the contributors' interests. At the same time, when it comes to challenges and gaps, I'll highlight the Kubeflow documentation, which is also an easy way to get started and used to the project that still has gaps. There are a lot of features that have been developed that are yet not documented, and it's a pity because of the project's capabilities that are not easily accessible. I'm sure we have other opinions, no?
I can add. John, go first.
No, yeah. So all the projects that we are seeing here, except the model registry and the Spark operator, they are all on V1. And for certain components like notebooks and trainer, we are looking at getting the newer V2 version, hearing the feedback from community. So from a user perspective, it all depends on what you actually want, and start using that. I don't see any problems there. And from your contribution perspective, please reach out to us. We are having V2 versions of certain components. You can definitely contribute and help us there. We always look for contributions there.
Yeah, I think just to add on this, I think agentic space is very interesting for us right now. I think Ronen mentioned about inference. So yes, inference is like one of the most complicated problem to solve, us as a community. And when I say community, I kind of say broader community, like cloud native community. So I mean, I think we work a lot. I think the integration with Llama Stack helps us to see what are the gaps and what are the things we need to work on, and like what actually already components exist can solve the problem. So for example, like training operator, right? We talk a lot about this on this panel, but like the operator was capable to do traditional ML, but at the same time, operator is capable to do post-training and large language models pre-training, because like in the way how it scales on Kubernetes and using Kubernetes native primitives, it can benefit from all these capabilities. So I think serving space, agentic space, and make it easier for new folks to use Kubernetes for ML. I think this is our kind of right now the trend and where we're going towards to.
I have a follow-up question.
Just want to add
go ahead.
one thing, because we are putting together a community survey, I think by end of this week, and we'll be sending out the survey so that anyone can fill out the survey and tell us any feedback you have, what other components you're using, because it's hard for us to tell like which one is the most popular, because we don't collect any like usage statistics. But yeah, the survey, I guess, is already there. So yeah, feel free to take a photo of the QR code and let us know.
I do have a follow-up question because Ronen, you are one of the adapters of Kubeflow. What was your biggest challenge when you got started?
What is our biggest challenge?
Yes,
Was?
with Kubeflow, with the Kubeflow project or the components.
Yeah, good question. I think first of all, like we see a lot of usage for Kubeflow pipelines. You mentioned it, right? For sure, and we are using the training operator. I think many times it's about supporting the training operator, right? When it runs in a Kubernetes environment, then things happen, and you just maintaining it along the way. That was a problem that we are helping with. Yeah.
Yeah, like just on this, like I think also metadata, it's a huge topic, and I'm LMD, and eventually, like how we can collect all this metadata around life cycles. So maybe also one of the interesting part we're working on to see how we can kind of consolidate information about what's happening in the different stages of your ML pipeline, and provide the unified some sort of infrastructure for folks to analyze this data, like on the training, on serving, on the pipeline side, on the data preparation with Spark. So this is one thing we'll also be working on.
I'll mention one more thing. So I think like distributed workloads, right, with the training operator, now it comes also to inference, right? Distributed inference, multi-node inference. So again, that problem comes. So maybe we need like an inference operator, but that's a problem that we see. And I think there are solutions that are starting to emerge, but that's a problem that we see out there.
Yeah, I think it's, thank you for your feedback and thank you for all the questions. I think when it comes to contributing to the community, it's really about where your passion is, and then based on it, you should join one of the working groups, provide feedback to where you find it relevant. I think in today's panel, we learned a lot about what's coming next. We've got some great announcements around the scheduler. I look forward to seeing it working with Kubeflow for sure. But also we learned more on where and how the Kubeflow community could get some help. Don't shy away from contributing to the project. Even if you share from your challenges on GitHub, for example, it does help us to better understand how you use Kubeflow, what's lacking as a project, and where we could improve it. And at the same time, you can join our Slack channel where everyone in the community is. It always makes us happy to get questions, to learn more from you as well. Thank you, everyone, and thank you all for joining the panel as well.